Spider-Man definitely lived up to being a solid superhero game. Its storytelling was excellent, the combat was very fun, and the web swinging is damn near perfect. Insomniac Games really captured the spirit of Spider-Man when it comes to his movement, his comedic humor during tense situations, as well as Peter Parker's personality and how he interacts with everyone around him. What I enjoyed most about Spider-Man was Peter's story and how he dealt with being Spider-Man. His moral dilemmas, especially at the end of the game, is what really stood out to me and pushed Spider-Man past just being a decent game and good to becoming great. As I said in my first impressions, the web slinging and combat are really good in Spider-Man, and at the time of that video, I felt the story pacing was really good. I can still say the same about those things now that I've actually beaten the game. I'd be hard pressed to find faults with all of these things. Also, at the time of my first impressions video, I was enjoying the side content, such as the fighting random crimes and collecting things. However, about 60% through the game, I kind of grew tired of the side content, to the point where I ignored most of it. I actually kind of blame myself because for a couple of play sessions, I devoted my time to just finding backpacks and landmarks, and I felt like this made me really fatigued of open world. I pretty much started ignoring everything, the random crimes, the challenges, and even the enemy hideouts, which I really liked taking down at first. I was torn about this because I wanted to collect those things, I wanted to get better suits, but at the same time, I wasn't interested enough and I didn't want to start hating the game. So I made the decision to stay on the path of just playing the story. And once I started nearing the end of the game, everything picked up and I was back to my honeymoon phase like I was before. Story, combat, boss battles, and even just purpose for playing all went from like a 6 to a 10. I really can't say enough about the last boss battle. It was so epic. I really enjoyed the cinematics, the combat, the back and forth between the characters, and the story surrounding it too. I actually became emotionally invested in, where I was getting a little teary-eyed at one point. So yeah, just the ending alone is enough to play this game. I was very satisfied with what I was seeing, what I was playing, and it just really picked up. Also, knowing what would be in a sequel, if it happens, has me hyped as well. You know Marvel, they're good for having those extra scenes at the end. Same is going on here with this game. That last scene, man, I'm hype. But yeah, I really want to commend how great of a job Insomniac Games did with this story. I'm not a Marvel movie buff in any way, but I felt like the ending in this game was such a Marvel experience, with how well the characters were developed, as well as the over-the-top cinematics that I really enjoyed. As for the stealth missions with Mary Jane and Miles, I grew a bit tired of these as well. The thing about them was each time one started, I had this feeling of dread. Like I just didn't want to do it. I would laugh to myself, like, damn, again? A few I felt weren't really necessary and I could always guess what was coming next. Like at one point, MJ had to go through a door and needed a code. Next thing I know, she needs a key to get into another door to get the code. And all of it, I was pretty much guessing. I was saying to myself, okay, now I'm gonna need a key. And then sure enough, it would happen. So it kind of had those cliche moments that you could guess already. And speaking of easy guessing and just kind of knowing what was gonna happen, I felt like Insomniac showed way too much in the trailers. The bosses, the villains, it's like I already knew they were coming. The game though, like I said, with that ending, it redeems itself, because even though I knew who was going to be the last boss and the bosses leading up to that boss, there was still so many elements of surprise and it was just so good. Also, another thing that wasn't very spectacular in this game was the puzzles. They were okay, but sometimes I just felt like, I'd rather not do them. Some of them were challenging and I didn't mind, using my mind a bit, but overall, I think I could have done without them. I guess the redeeming factor about it is that it gave me a glimpse into Peter's life as far as his occupation and being a scientist and being smart and, using his brain to do some of these things. So I can appreciate that, but at times it just kind of killed the momentum a bit too much and I just wasn't really feeling it. But that kind of goes in line with the other things like the side missions and how I was already feeling fatigued already. So if I'm already feeling that and then I gotta do a puzzle, sometimes it doesn't really rub me the right way. But I could see what they were going for, and I could find appreciation for it. I'm a combat girl. You guys already know this about me. When it comes to most games, combat is very important. And because it's done so well in this game, as far as the web swinging into moves, grabbing people with the webs, throwing them, grabbing objects around you and being able to sling them around and hit enemies, all those finishing moves and just all the things you can unlock in the combat, I was always into the combat. I was always enjoying it. So that alone, plus just Peter Parker's story and the storytelling itself, the characters around him, those are the major points for me. Those are the reasons I enjoyed this game. These other things, like the puzzles and all that, I can forgive, but I did want to mention that those were kind of negatives for me, even though I could see what they were going for and why they're there. I can appreciate them, but they're just not really for me, I guess. I like the combat, and I wanted to do a lot of it in the story, and so whenever it slowed down and I had to do something slow, like stealth or puzzles, it just was, it didn't really work sometimes. But overall, Spider-Man, it was a really good experience. I would definitely recommend this game to anyone, especially if you love the characters, you're into Spider-Man. There's really no reason why you shouldn't play it. I said in my first impressions that, I didn't really play a lot of Spider-Man games before, but I would imagine the perfect game as far as the fluidity, the combat, the movement, being Spider-Man. This is the game. This is the one you want to play. This is the one you want to experience. The music goes along with it as well. There's some great music in this game where you just feel like you're in that Spider-Man universe, and the atmosphere is great. New York, of course, looks gorgeous. I've never been to New York, but I can imagine it like this, and just, having it look so good and replicated. Maybe with some things missing here and there and some things exaggerated and not real, but for the most part, you're in New York, you're swinging away, you're going through all the buildings. It just feels good. It feels like a Spider-Man should feel. And so I could recommend this to anyone. I know it has an 87 on Metacritic, and I think that's fair because, with the negatives that I had for it and the positives outweighing it, it's still a good score. I think 87's a good score for this game. It's fair, and yeah, that's pretty much my review on the game. I wanted to keep it concise and short and sweet. I did write a script at the beginning, I'm sure you can tell, and now I'm just kind of free-flowing. So that's usually how I do these things, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. Let me know what you think about Spider-Man if you've played it. What did you think of the game? What would you rate it? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching this video, you guys, and I will catch you in my next one. Until then, take care. I'll catch you later. Bye.
Was a workout?